This is absolutely insane, as ESPN reporter Zach Lowe just came out on his podcast and discussed how the Toronto Raptors are one of only two teams that should go after, should target Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls after he was put out onto the trade market just yesterday. So we'll break down what Zach Lowe had to say, why a lot of Raptors fans are specifically clamoring for Zach LaVine, and why I personally passionately disagree with this move, in terms of something that Masai Ujiri should make, even though there are some points of it that do make sense, even though I get the fit, right? It doesn't make sense for the Toronto Raptors, really short term or long term. So we'll dive into any of that. But before we do, guys, I've been creeping the analytics. I've been looking in our back end. And folks, 53% of you guys that are watching the vids haven't subscribed to the channel. And we're making daily Toronto Raptors content. We are very, very close to 30,000 subscribers. So it would mean the world to me if you guys could hit that subscribe button if you've been watching and enjoying the content. If not, we'll try to earn that subscription after this video or the next couple. It is what it is. But let's dive into this discussion, because basically Zach Lowe on his podcast here with Kevin Pelton discussed how the Toronto Raptors would be a perfect sort of fit, or a team that really makes sense to go after Zach LaVine. And not for the regular reasons as people sort of discuss. The Toronto Raptors just love swinging for the fences, or at least trying to swing for the fences, striking out occasionally on the top stars that enter the trade market, right? Masai Ujiri has even discussed how he loves throwing his hands into the, Kevin Durant names, the Damian Lillard big names that get thrown out there. Masai's always trying to improve this roster. Some people say he should pull the trigger a little bit more on these top guys, but, he's always in discussions, little trigger, doesn't always execute the trades. Now, Marc Gasol was a big acquisition. Kawhi Leonard's a big acquisition. He has pulled off these massive deals in the past. But, as of late, Masai Ujiri's like to hold on to our guys. But Zach Lowe in particular talked about how this Zach LaVine potential acquisition makes sense for Masai Ujiri to really go after. And basically, pulling up basically a nice recap. Eastern Technologies written it down pretty nicely for me. But basically, Zach Lowe said that there are only two teams that should trade for Zach LaVine, the LA Lakers and the Toronto Raptors. And basically, he won't be a primary decision maker. There's defenders all around him. The Raptors can make the cap work, giving up short-term deals like Gary Trent Jr., Chris Boucher, Thaddeus Young. That's close to the salary match for the Toronto Raptors. They're at $38 million, and then they won't be pushed into the luxury tax. So it saves some money for Chicago, and then they throw in a couple of extra picks, talking about 2028 and potentially 2030 from the Toronto Raptors there. Chicago fans won't be happy about this deal, but whatever, it is what it is. The Raptors need shooting. They need roving shooting, ball handling, explosiveness shooting so badly, especially from around the three of Scottie Barnes, Pascal Siakam, and OG Anunoby. He fits the team like a glove, and Toronto is just okay right now. I think they know that they're just okay. So lots of things said there from Zach Lowe in terms of this context, and yeah, I get it. The Raptors do need a scoring punch, because Scottie Barnes is emerging as an elite sort of pick and roll guy, a facilitator, a slasher around the rim, and heck, even his three-point shooting is evolving. It's becoming a lot better, but no one would call Scottie Barnes' primary asset, primary skill, his jump shot, at least just yet. So, he's still a little bit inconsistent from there. Pascal Siakam, we know the jump shot can kind of come and go. He's much better at sort of working in that mid-post area, being quick with his spins, finishing around the basket. And then OG Anunoby is a proper three-point shooter, but again, he's improved his off-the-dribble game, but is not a guy that you'd rely upon to sort of create his own shot in the mid-range. Will definitely knock down those spot-up threes, those open corner shots above the break, wherever it is. OG is a great set three-point shooter, but the shooting that Zach LaVine would be able to provide for this Toronto Raptors team, there's no doubt about it, would be immensely valuable. However, given Zach LaVine's contract, given what else it brings to the table if we do make a move like this, it gets a little bit sketchy, because yes, a starting lineup of Dennis Schroeder, Zach LaVine, OG Anunoby, Scottie Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Jakob Poeltl. I guess you'd have to figure out sort of the mold, the fit in terms of who's going to actually end up starting on this squad, similar to what we have with Gary Trent Jr. coming into the year. But he is definitely disappointed, at least to say, as over the course of the season, dealt with some injuries as well. But in Toronto Raptors, shooting, floor spacing would all make sense. But this team has two extremely important free agents come this summer in Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. We also have a Scottie Barnes extension that, as it looks now, unless Scottie Barnes completely falls off or doesn't or completely stagnates in his development or things along those lines, he's going to be getting probably a max contract extension come next summer as well. The Raptors have a lot of money they're going to tie up into these top guys. So, if they plan on bringing back OG Anunoby, if they plan on keeping Scottie Barnes long term, and Pascal Siakam's there is a guy that I'd personally like to have on this Raptors roster more than a Zach LaVine, but we could just discuss how, maybe you send Siakam away instead of giving future picks and things like that. But I don't know. I don't think the addition of Zach LaVine into this core group, into this group of guys, and immediately makes us sort of at the tier of a Boston Celtics, of a Philadelphia 76ers, heck, even a Milwaukee Bucks, who we saw last night destroy us without Giannis Antetokounmpo in the lineup. So Zach LaVine giving up 2 future firsts, which it would have to take given we're not giving that much value. Boucher's value is kind of in the dumps right now. Gary Trent Jr.'s value is in the dumps. Thaddeus Young is not a valuable role piece here at any point. So I don't think it makes sense for the Toronto Raptors to risk a 2030 first round pick, a 2028 first round pick, especially after the deal we just made at last year's trade deadline, giving up our pick for this year, if it's not top 6 protected pick for this year for Jakob Poeltl, where it really hasn't worked out. Going to make a video on him this afternoon as well. So I don't know. I don't think going all in, put all the chips on the table with this current roster, this current group, it makes sense to give up future assets, future pieces to take a team that right now is a play-in team. And I think Zach LaVine would make certainly a second round team, but we're not beating the Boston Celtics with at least the level of production we're performing right now. Maybe it makes sense to acquire LaVine and tweak the roster because he might be a better fit around a Scottie Barnes or one of these types of dudes. But, that leads us sort of the second topic of discussion. I alluded to it earlier. If the Raptors were to make this move, maybe it's a multi-team trade where Pascal Siakam goes out, because bringing back LaVine definitely is more intriguing to me than the DeAndre Hunter, sort of Kobe Buffkin rumors we heard over the course of the offseason. LaVine is a piece that I think does make more sense around a Scottie Barnes, OG Anunoby sort of situated team, but again, it's not that much better. I think LaVine is a downgrade in terms of talent regarding a Pascal Siakam. Siakam's done a lot more in his career, brings a lot more in the defensive end, all those types of things, but maybe is a better fit. So you discuss, you figure out how those sort of things piece together. If the Raptors are looking to shake things up, maybe that would make sense. I don't know if the Chicago Bulls be that interested in Pascal Siakam, given the fact if they're trading on from LaVine, I think they want to go more rebuilding approach, but you never know. The Chicago Bulls front office has been very adamant that they want to compete, want to win, and a market like Chicago deserves a winner. So maybe a deal like that could potentially work out. Let me know in the comment section if you guys would like to see sort of in a vacuum LaVine for Pascal Siakam swap. Obviously, other pieces would likely be involved regarding something like that, because then a starting unit of Dennis Schroeder, Zach LaVine, OG Anunoby, Scottie Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl is interesting, to say the least. That is, a lot more shooting around Poeltl at that point. Poeltl is kind of a black hole there at this point, not a black hole, but a floor spacing hole, on the Toronto Raptors offense here, and he's been slowing down on the defensive end. It's an interesting hypothetical, but personally, given the contract situations, the questions we have in the future with OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, I don't think bringing in $40+ million for Zach LaVine really makes sense. But let me know what you guys think. You guys are best to make this far. Subscribe to the channel, as I mentioned earlier. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.